The clink of a fork against a wine glass sliced through the Christmas chatter at Joseph's table. Karen's slurred voice rose, sharp and theatrical, demanding an audience.
Listen to this gem I found in the guest room. He told me it was our secret, but I saw his car pull away that night, and I knew.
That was the night I caught Dad sneaking home at 2 a.m. I wrote it down because I didn't know what else to do.
Every head at the long table turned. The festive murmurs died. Only the candles flickered, as if the room itself was holding its breath.
Oh, this gets better. His lies are so smooth, I almost believe him every time. Sweetie, who was the boy who broke your heart?
The journal page showed Patricia's 17-year-old cursive, the ink slightly smeared, the entries raw with a confusion she'd buried for a decade.
Come on, Karen. It's just a kid's diary. Let's not spoil dinner.
Karen, that's enough. It belongs to Patricia, please.
Relax, Susan. It's all ancient history. We're just having fun, aren't we, Patricia? Look at her. She's perfectly calm.
If she turns to the 2014 pages, everything will explode. And I can't stop her.
Karen flipped ahead, her red nail pausing at a page where Patricia's handwriting had grown shakier. The ink pressed harder into the paper.
Oh, here we go. He kissed me behind the boathouse. He said no one could know. Who was the mystery man, Patricia? Your little boyfriend from summer camp?
That entry wasn't about a boy. It was the afternoon I saw Dad pull Aunt Karen into the boathouse. I wrote it because I had to tell someone, even if that someone was just a blank page.
Ha! Teenagers. So dramatic. Let's eat before the goose gets cold.
Karen, I asked you to stop. Patricia is not your entertainment. This is our family dinner.
Lighten up, Susan. Patricia isn't a child. She's a grown woman. If she minded, she'd say something. Look at her, not a peep.
David's jaw tightened. He stared at the tablecloth, a bead of sweat tracing his temple, his fork trembling in his grip. At the head of the table, Joseph remained utterly still, his deep-set eyes moving from Karen to Patricia, missing nothing. Patricia's hand rested beside her plate, fingers perfectly still, as if she had willed her body into stone.
She thinks she's humiliating me over some long-forgotten crush. She has no idea she's reading her own betrayal.
Karen's red nail traced down to a date circled in faint pencil, August 2014. She cleared her throat with theatrical relish.
I saw them in the pool house. I don't know how to look at him. I can't tell anyone. Oh, Patricia, did your boyfriend cheat? Were you the other woman?
The words hit Patricia like a physical blow. Her lungs seized as the room tilted around her.
That entry isn't about a teenage romance. It's the moment I saw my father and my aunt together.
Joseph's hand tightened on his blanket. His gaze shifted to Patricia, keen and unblinking.
What a drama queen. Now the whole family knows your dirty secret.
David's face went white. He stared at his plate, a muscle twitching in his jaw.
Karen, stop. You're being cruel. Patricia doesn't deserve this.
Patricia's eyes locked with Joseph's. In his gaze, she saw something that made her blood run cold, not surprise, but weary recognition.
He knows. He's known all along.
Oh, don't just sit there like a statue. Tell us, Patricia, who was them? Who broke your little heart so badly you had to write a novel about it?
She wants me to give her a story she can twist? I won't. I've held this secret for 10 years. She doesn't get to own it now.
Patricia's silence became a wall. Karen's smirk faltered for just a heartbeat.
Karen, sit down. You've made your point. Let's just enjoy the meal.
Stay out of this, Mark. I want to hear from the saint who writes everyone's sins in her little journal.
Joseph's hand on the blanket curled into a fist. The veins stood out and his throat worked in a dry swallow.
If I speak, this family will shatter. I cannot be the one who breaks it, so I'll be stone.
Cat got your tongue, Patricia? Or were you just as pathetic in person as you were on paper?
The candlelight flickered violently, as if the room itself was holding its breath. No one moved. Joseph drew a shallow breath, his chest rattling. For a long moment, everyone waited.
Oh, for God's sake, Patricia, a statue with no pulse. Were you born this cold? Or did someone freeze you solid?
David's chair screeched back. He stood, pale as wax, and walked stiffly toward the hall, a muscle jumping in his jaw.
David? Where are you going? What is wrong with everyone tonight?
Patricia did not answer. The present dissolved, and she was 17 again, hiding behind the planter outside the pool house. Through the glass she saw them, her father, David, and Aunt Karen tangled in a desperate kiss, their reflection shimmering in the pool water.
I couldn't breathe. I pressed my hand over my mouth and backed away, but I could still hear Aunt Karen's laugh, low and secret.
She stumbled to her childhood room, opened the diary, and wrote with a hand that shook so badly the ink blurred. That entry stayed hidden for a decade. The diary entry from that afternoon read, "I saw Aunt Karen and Dad in the pool house. They were kissing. I can't tell anyone. I can't look at Mom." The ink was stained with old tears.
I learned to hold secrets like glass that day, carefully, without breathing, and I carried that one for 10 years.
Across the table, Joseph's chest rose in a shallow breath. The last grain of sand in his hourglass was about to fall.
I bet you were quite the little heartbreaker, Patricia. Sneaking around with boys, writing all this smut. Your parents must be so disappointed.
She's spinning my pain into cheap gossip. The truth is darker than she knows.
David sat back down, pale as bone. His hands shook under the tablecloth. Susan touched her locket, the one David gave her years ago. She opened it, then let it fall, her face a frozen mask.
Karen, put the diary down. You've had too much wine. This isn't you.
I've had just enough wine to enjoy this. If everyone's upset, maybe it's because of what Patricia wrote. Not me.
Patricia and Joseph locked eyes across the table. A silent message passed. His gaze asked, "Are you ready?" And hers answered, "I trust you."
What's the matter, Patricia? Cat caught your tongue for good. Defend yourself for heaven's sake?
Defending myself means shattering my mother. I'd rather be thought a coward than a weapon.
Joseph's hand found the edge of the table. He was a man gathering his last strength, and the room could feel it.
Listen to this. I can't eat. I can't sleep. Every time I look at him, I see their faces. I'm drowning in her secret. Oh, the teenage angst. Who was he, Patricia?
That entry is about the weeks after I saw them. The guilt was eating me alive, and I couldn't tell a soul.
Karen flipped the page, her voice dripping with theatrical sympathy, reciting each line as if it were a cheap novel.
And here, I wrote a letter I'll never send. If Mom ever finds out, it will kill her. Patricia, you were so dramatic. It was just a boy.
Mark grimaced, putting down his fork, the jovial mask now fully gone. Even he could see the cruelty.
She's reading the map of my worst year aloud, and she thinks it's a comedy. I could stop her with 6 words.
Joseph's jaw tightened so hard the tendons stood out on his neck. The frail old man looked suddenly dangerous.
And the final gem, I will take this to my grave. How noble. Too bad you left your grave lying around in my guest room, Patricia.
If he doesn't speak, I will shatter before dessert. I can feel the cracks spreading.
At the head of the table, Joseph opened his mouth. The air left the room.
You really are pathetic. A diary full of tears and you won't even defend yourself. Fine, take your little book back.
She tossed the diary onto the table. It landed open to the 2014 entry, the circled date catching the candlelight like a flare. In the ringing silence, Joseph set down his fork with a clink that cut through the room. Every head turned. The air itself seemed to pull back toward the old man in the wheelchair.
Karen.
His voice was thin, graveled by illness, but it landed with the force of a piano falling. He raised one liver-spotted finger from the blanket, the gesture slight but undeniable.
He's really going to say it. All these years he's waited, and now...
Karen's wine glass trembled in her hand, the Chardonnay sloshing against the rim. The room balanced on the edge of a knife, waiting for him to finish what the diary had started, to name the sin that had festered in the dark for a decade.
Karen, does your husband know that the 2014 entry isn't about Patricia's boyfriend?
The question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. No one breathed.
He turned the diary toward himself, pointed to the date and read, "I saw Aunt Karen and Dad in the pool house. They were..."
He didn't finish. The words detonated like a bomb under the Christmas table. Every face froze.
That's a lie! She was a teenager making up stories to feel important.
David's bloodless lips parted, but no sound came. His eyes were fixed on the tablecloth.
David, what is he talking about? Tell me he's confused.
He said it. The secret that's been crushing me for a decade is finally out.
Karen's face crumpled, the wine glass slipping from her fingers to shatter on the hardwood floor. The room was a frozen tableau of shattered illusions, Christmas candles burning over the wreckage of a broken family.
It's a lie. She was a jealous little girl making up stories. Why would you believe a diary over me?
David's lips moved in silent fragments, but his voice had been stolen by guilt. His eyes never left the tablecloth.
Karen, look at me. Don't you dare lie to me now. Is it true?
Susan's hands shook so violently the silverware rattled against her plate. She pressed them flat to stop the trembling.
A single tear traced a cold path down my cheek. I didn't wipe it away. For the first time, I didn't have to hide.
I have known for 10 years.
The words landed like stones into a still pond. 10 years. He had known all along, and he had told no one.
You knew? You knew my husband, with my sister, and you said nothing?
He kept my secret to protect me. But my mother's entire marriage was built on a lie he could have ended.
Joseph's one question had exposed not just an affair, but a decade of calculated silence. And the family was only beginning to count the cost.
I found the diary years ago in a box of Patricia's old things. I read every word. I knew what it meant. I chose silence to protect David's marriage, to protect you, Susan. It was cowardice dressed as mercy.
Susan's breath hitched. The weight of 10 years of complicit silence pressed onto her lungs.
I have terminal lymphoma. 3 weeks, the doctors say. I am settling accounts before I go.
He's been dying while carrying our secret. All this time, he's been the only one who understood.
The Christmas table transformed into a deathbed confessional. The roast goose grew cold, forgotten.
You're dying? After all this silence, you choose now to tell me my marriage was a fraud?
I owed you the truth before I go. I couldn't leave this world with that lie still festering.
David's gaze dropped to his father, the man who had hidden his sin under a terminal diagnosis. He looked smaller than ever. Joseph's revelation wasn't revenge. It was a dying patriarch's last attempt to cut out the rot before it consumed everything. Mark's silence shattered. He pushed back his chair with a screech that cut through the heavy air.
You slept with my wife in my own home.
Mark, please. It was a mistake. I was weak. You have to listen.
He shook her hand off as if it burned him, and walked past her, his eyes empty. He didn't look back. The front door opened, then closed with a quiet click that sounded louder than a gunshot. Karen collapsed into a chair, her sobs the only sound in the room, raw and grating.
He's really done. Aunt Karen's world just ended, and she has no one to blame but herself.
Through the window, red taillights flickered and died as Mark's car disappeared into the snowy night. Through the window, red taillights flickered and died as Mark's car disappeared into the snowy night. The dinner was over. 2 marriages lay in ruins, and the silence that followed was the sound of a family falling apart.
Thank you, Joseph. A part of me always felt something was wrong, but I never wanted to see it.
She turned to David, her eyes no longer confused but clear, like still water after a storm.
We are done, David. I will never listen to another lie from you again.
Susan, please, it was years ago. I was lost. You can't throw away 30 years.
You threw it away. Now get out of this house and take your guilt with you.
My mother looked taller, sharper, like she'd shed a skin I never knew she wore.
David stumbled back, his face crumpling. He opened his mouth, but no argument could survive the truth. Susan's hand reached across the table, not for David, but for Joseph's gnarled fingers.
Thank you, she whispered again, her voice finally breaking into a sob that she no longer tried to hide.
In that moment, Patricia understood. Joseph hadn't just freed her, he'd freed Susan from a decade of silent suffering. Karen's sobs choked into a wet, ragged hiss. Her red-rimmed eyes found Patricia with a hatred that burned through the candlelight.
You did this. You and your pathetic little diary. You ruined my life.
For 10 years I swallowed this poison. No more. You did it to yourself, Aunt Karen. I just wrote it down.
Her voice was low. A stone dropped into the silence, and it landed with the weight of a decade. She rose from the chair, her movements slow and deliberate, and walked past Karen without a backward glance.
Don't you walk away. You owe me. After everything?
David slumped deeper into his chair, his head bowed, a broken man with no words left. At the end of the table, Joseph watched his granddaughter approach, his frail chest rising with something close to pride.
I had finally spoken, and the world didn't end. It just rearranged itself around the truth.
Later that night, after the guests had fled and the dining room was a candlelit wreck, the house fell silent.
I should have told you sooner. Forgive me, Susan.
You did what you thought was right. I don't have to forgive you for that. You were protecting Patricia.
In the hallway, Patricia pressed the diary to her chest. Unseen, she heard her mother's voice, steadier than she'd ever heard it.
My mother is stronger than I ever knew. She's not broken. She's been reforged by this truth.
The kitchen clock ticked softly. Susan's hand still held Joseph's. Patricia's eyes filled, but she didn't step into the light.
This was their moment. She had no right to intrude.
She turned and walked back to the guest room, the diary's worn cover warm against her skin, a quiet witness. In the silent dining room, Karen's phone screen lit up on the tablecloth among the scattered napkins and spilled wine. The text from Mark read, "I'll file the papers tomorrow."
No. Please, no. He can't. He can't leave me like this.
The sound tore through the house, raw and guttural, but no one came to comfort her. Upstairs, David lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, not moving. Downstairs, Patricia set the diary on the kitchen island and covered her mouth with both hands.
It's actually over. 10 years of silence, and now this.
The tears came at last, silent at first, then heaving. A decade of unshed grief spilled onto her sweater. She didn't try to stop them. She let the salt wash away the stone. Outside, the first snow of New Year's began to fall, quiet and white, blanketing the old house and its wounds. By New Year's morning, a thick envelope from Mark's lawyer landed on the hall table. The divorce papers had been filed. The local paper carried the legal notice. Karen versus Mark, dissolution of marriage. Karen moved out in the dead of night. Her red sequined dress left crumpled on the bedroom floor like a shed skin. Mark told a friend over a grim coffee, "I should have seen the signs. She was never where she said she was." At home, Susan pulled David's suits from the closet, folding them into boxes with quiet, precise movements. Patricia helped, not speaking, just handing hangers, her mother's silent resolve a mirror of her own.
We were both learning to breathe again, one breath at a time.
The town whispered. At the diner and the grocery store, Karen's name became a cautionary tale. Her wedding ring was found under the dining table, abandoned, a cold circle of gold. The divorce was final. The marriage Karen had mocked Patricia over was the one that ended. A week into the new year, Patricia walked into Joseph's hospice room, the diary tucked under her arm like an old, fragile friend.
He looked smaller than ever, the oxygen tube a delicate thread against his parchment skin.
You came. I hoped you would.
Grandpa, you kept the diary all this time. You never told a soul. Why?
I was waiting for the right moment. You were stronger than you knew, my brave girl.
Patricia laid her hand over his, feeling the faint pulse of a life that had sheltered her silence for a decade.
He had been my shield, even when I didn't know it. I owed him every breath of this hard-won peace.
Outside the window, the first snow of the new year drifted down, silent and clean.
I saw the rot in this family, and I wanted to cut it out before my time was up. I think I did.
They sat in shared silence, the beep of the monitor a gentle metronome for all the words they no longer needed. 1 year later, Christmas Eve settled over the house like a gentle snowfall, quiet, clean, and full of a peace hard won. Patricia walked to the sideboard, the worn diary in her hands, and set it down as a relic. not a secret. Susan watched, her eyes bright with tears that no longer stung.
It's strange. That book held so much pain, and now it just looks harmless.
It's not the book that was dangerous, Mom. It was the secrets. Now there are none.
She glanced at the hallway where a new portrait hung, the two of them in a smiling photograph of Joseph. David had visited his father that morning, a quiet truce marked by silence and a hand on a shoulder.
We were a family again, smaller, scarred, but honest. And that was enough.
The Christmas candles burned low, casting long, quiet shadows. The house no longer held ghosts.
Merry Christmas, Patricia. Our first of many that are truly ours.
A few days after Christmas, Patricia returned to the hospice room, the diary in her hands one last time. Joseph lay barely conscious, his chest rising in shallow, uneven breaths. The oxygen tube rested loosely under his nose. Patricia leaned close, holding the diary up where he could see it if he opened his eyes.
His eyelids fluttered open. He saw the diary, and that same knowing wink crossed his weathered face. "My girl," he breathed.
His hand lifted, trembling, and touched the cover of the diary like a blessing. Then his eyes closed, and the room grew still. The monitors fell silent.
He was finally at peace, his burden lifted, and so was mine.
She walked out into the cold night, the diary pressed to her heart, carrying his final gift. In the glass, her own reflection blended with the memory of his wink, a secret passed from one generation to the next. The snow fell softly, blanketing the old house and the new life waiting for her. After the funeral, Patricia sat in her small apartment, the diary open on the coffee table, a pen beside it. She lifted the pen and turned to the last, empty page, the ink steady in her hand. On the last page, in fresh blue ink, were 4 words. He knew. He always knew. She closed the diary and pressed its worn cover to her lips, a silent goodbye. Then she stood and walked to the window. The city lights flickered through falling snow. Her reflection shone back at her, clear-eyed and calm.
I am no longer the girl who held secrets like glass. I am free.
A genuine smile crossed her face, small and quiet like the first snow. She placed the diary beside a photograph of Joseph, his wink captured forever in silver. Outside, the snow continued to fall, and she knew the truth had set her free. On the wall, a framed photograph of Joseph at the lake smiled out, his eyes full of quiet knowledge. Below it, on the sideboard, the worn diary rested, its cover soft from years of holding a secret. Some inherit houses, some inherit secrets. Patricia inherited a question that set her free. The last page of the diary caught the lamplight, the fresh blue ink still crisp. 4 words that held the weight of a decade. He knew. He always knew. She stood by the Christmas tree, watching the snow fall beyond the window. The diary on the shelf behind her was no longer a burden, but a testament. The long table of her childhood sat silent now, its candles long burnt out, a ghost of Christmases past. Fade to black. The story of how one quiet question ended a marriage and freed a family was complete.